Let's have a deeper look at the racks used in this demo. Quickly heading to the bass, the first rack you'll see there is one called Dante's Reverb. Now this uses pitch shift or pitch modulated reverbs. This first macro will control the length of all of the reverbs, and here are the three main reverbs, one called Spooky, Fright Night and Eerie. You can control the stereo width of all of the reverbs, squeeze them with some compression, and then a high pass and low pass. Now let me set these reverbs to extreme so you can hear each one in action. So first, nothing. Now let's put Spooky on. And I'm going to drop the high pass down a bit so you can hear it fit into the bass a little bit. So with the reverb length set down here, it's excellent for adding a little bit of ambience. Fright Night. And this is why it's called Dante's Reverb. These are quite bizarre sounding reverbs, but I love them. I keep on going back to them. And Eerie. Let's just have a tweak first, and I'll show you how powerful these can be when mixed together with these filters here and some of the compression controls. I love this rack. It's really characterful, and once you start to squish groups like this together as well, it can really sound fantastic. Now obviously you know the synth bass rack, hopefully from the main video that we showed before. I have one turned off here, which is the upwards compression. Let me really go to town with this now. Now let's head up to the kick, and I'm using this rack, the Venus Kick Rumble. Now this is actually using a whole collection of hybrid reverbs, but using non-standard impulse responses. You can change the stereo width of all of the reverbs and duck them against the kick. You can overdrive the kicks, and also using this you can hollow out an actual hole for the main kick drum using a mid-side EQ. And each one of these has its own flavor. Let me show you. Let's turn everything down and do them one at a time so you understand what I'm talking about here. This was actually a request from quite a few users who love their techno, because this is a production technique that is all over modern techno styles. And whilst we're on the drums, I've got to show you this small but mighty rack, the Venus Drum Bus Selector. This has 6 different processes selectable here and just a 1 knob amount. So there are 6 sub-racks contained within. They are exclusive. So in other words, there is only one operational at any one time. And just at the end of it, you have the ability to extend the sub end. So we can take the say all the way down to 40, just add a little bit of weight down there. And this is a perfect time for me to explain this headroom control. I've got it at its lowest position, so this is not adding any additional headroom to the rack. And as you can see, we have an input gain before the 2 sub-racks that are doing the processes, and then an output gain at the end. You'll see that the gains are ganged here, and they are both set to 0. If I turn the headroom up, it will drop the input level to the processes by a certain amount and then reclaim that gain on the output. This builds headroom into all of the systems that are within these sub-racks. And why is that important? Well, certain processes will work best at certain operating levels. Now, I've got it just on the drums here. I don't actually have it on the kick. The kick is still separate, so this is on the rest of the beats. Let me solo them. And this is process number 6, which is named upwards, and I'm just going to turn the amount up. So let's hear that in context. Now let me go through some of the options and actually play with the amounts. This is number 5, pushing. Number 4 should add some mid-range punch. And of course, don't think you have to use this just on buses, just because it says bus on it. Please use it on individual instruments, synths, basses, you name it. Try all of this stuff on anything. What's the worst that can happen? Now, if we turn the headroom down on some of these, let's see if we can get a bit of clipping. So you see there's a real balance to be had there between the actual process that you've selected, the headroom controls, and the amount, because the amount is probably firing things into compressors within the sub-racks. And then the headroom dropping the level before it reaches all of that can be absolutely vital. And of course you can gain stage here with this little fella, the main output control. So now I want to head back to the basses and this fantastic instrument, Venus 21st Century Bass. This is our second incarnation of this kind of rack, and now we've got 16 macros to play with and presets and all of that. My goodness, it's going to be an awful lot of fun. So what you effectively do here is layer a sub element, a chunky element, a mid-range element, and a top zappy element together. So you can select, there's at least 10, I think one of them does have 11, yeah, the chunk has 11 on it. So these are individual patches and these are not single note. Everything here is multi-sampled. You can then control the overall release of the bass sound. The pressure knob will add some very finely tuned compression to it. Now here you can add overdrive to all of the individual parts. So you can overdrive the sub a bit, you can overdrive the chunks, the mids and the tops, and obviously you've got like a mini mixer of all of these parts here. So as you can see, there's an awful lot of options. Let me show you some of the preset variations that we've got set up here. And don't forget, you can always just hit the randomize button here. But what I first am going to do is actually exclude the mixer and the drives from the randomization process. Before I finish this video, I just had someone on Facebook ask, how did you put this bass line together? Any chance of a little tutorial? Well, it is basically 4 versions of the Venus 21st Century bass rack, but have a look at this first one. This is the only one that has the sub turned up. The rest of them do not. It's all of the chunks, mids and zaps that are doing the work. Let me just solo the first part. You've actually already heard it in this tutorial. You can hear the reverb from Dante's reverbs being picked up beautifully there. So that's my main pulse. There's nothing special about it. It is literally one note. And even if you don't play keyboards, learning how to put in rhythms that you hear in your head is vital. And the first thing I would say is don't just go to a keyboard and start pressing keys. You won't get anywhere and you'll feel bad if you don't play. See if you can think of a bass line in your head and then try to replicate it just on one note. Because if you can get the rhythm in, you're 50% there. You can then change the notes if you want to. Okay, then what I did is took another instance, and here is the second sound. And if you look, it's not playing anything special until the end, and then there's a little flick which we'll come to in a minute. And then I just sat there and recorded them in one note at a time where I thought it sounded good. Now that's just Fs, but because of the change in tone, it sounds interesting. Now the only place I have changed is just on this last bar. So how did I know which notes to pick? Well, you can do this inside of Ableton. If you know which key you're in, so we know we're rooted on an F, we're going to want a minor key for this kind of music. I've put the scale function on here. Also, then you want to turn this button on up here, so you're only seeing the notes within the scale. And then hit the rhythm in that you want, just record it in or actually paste it in, and then just start moving things about. Let's try this. And then we've got a completely different variation on that fill. Now, one thing I would say is one of the reasons why this sounds quite funky is that everything is shuffled. And here I've used the F9 Berlin grooves. This is a free download on the F9 website, and it will allow you to get the grooves of a modern MPC and also Machina inside of Ableton. And if you want to know what swing is actually doing, it's very simple. All it's actually doing is just moving it off an exact grid. And it's only the 2nd and the 4th divisions in each beat that see that movement. The racks I've shown you in this video cover only a tiny fraction of what's inside this amazing pack. So don't forget to check out the other videos, listen to all of the audio demos and check out the specs on the site. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you at the next one.